Now, to kick us off, I can't think of a better speaker who's been a friend for over a decade of mine. He is the co-founder and former CEO of Nutanix. He's a board member of Adobe. He's a philanthropist. He's one of the most encouraging human beings I have ever met. And more importantly, he is the CEO and co-founder of DevRev. Who better to speak about de-risking change than Dheeraj Pandey?
Well, that's a hard one to follow, but I'll try, Jeff. And it's not just chutzpah, it's all the courage that he brings. But thank you, everyone, for being here. And thanks to a lot of the familiar faces. Thanks to everybody who really put a lot of their attention to detail, and they brought their authentic best to every pixel of this conference. It means a lot to us. Now, the best conferences are not hub and spoke, and we definitely are not the hub. The best conferences are really peer-to-peer, it's the mesh. And we learn from each other, and we bring the power of social proof. So let's bring your best stories on, because that's where the best conference is all about. Also, the best conferences are not about buyers only, it's not about users only, it's about buyers and users. And the best companies, I hope this works. Okay, testing 1, testing 2, and looks like we have a distance problem. I'm sorry about that, we'll try to make this work. Okay, good, great. A round of applause for the fact that tech actually works. The best companies and products, they also celebrate the tension. And there's a tension that we will talk a lot about in this room, in this industry, about them versus us, agents versus apps. And I think the best companies and products that celebrate that tension. And more importantly, I think over the course of this decade and more, you'll see this conference make a case that AI and design are two sides of the same coin. So in the next 15 minutes or so, you'll see me talk about the why, because why not? You start with why. And in that why, you will, all of us will have to really say, why do we doing this? Why? What's the real value of AI? And the thing that I've really convinced myself about AI is we are constantly struggling between work and life, and if there's one thing it could actually do, if it can restore some balance of work and life, if machines can do some of the toil, some of the stuff that we get bored of, or it's repetitive, then maybe we can actually focus on fewer things, but better. So that's the case that we want to make today. Now to do that, let's take a step back. Let's look at software that was conceived almost 20 years ago. Let's call it SaaS 1.0. For lack of a better word, we'll call it SaaS 1.0. And it really was boxed. It was a system that was built, and lots of these boxes that are built over time, but it was like a gadget, like a tool. It would do its thing, and then over the course of the last 10 years, it became really easy to create companies and create products. So we created lots of these gadgets. And we created more and more of these, some of them just for features. They're not even products, forget about companies. But the market kept saying, look, we got to really break the mold. We got to have this thing be more fluid. It should talk to each other, as opposed to the way it was conceived as being boxed. Now, it has become so bad that companies are taking control of their destiny. They're saying, look, I need to do this myself, because it's so complex. There's so many of these boxes. I need to simplify, I need to containerize, I need to really canonicalize a lot of what I do. But this is not scalable. It's not maintainable, it's not extensible. Even when you bring an AI company to come and do things for you, it just won't extend, it won't maintain, it won't scale itself. So the problem statement is here. Now, this is not a new problem. 15 years ago, Oracle went on an acquisition spree and bought a lot of companies. And a lot of you in the enterprise said, but who's going to integrate all this stuff together? So Oracle said, we're going to fuse this. We're going to fuse a lot of these things, and we'll integrate it to the best of our abilities. And they took 7, 8 years to fuse them, to the point by the time they were done, the goalpost had moved. It was about cloud. And customers realized that this thing that they'd fused was not ready for the cloud. And in many ways, we are at a very similar juncture, because Slack and the enterprise bus, they're not the best ways to really integrate your apps. If anything, the puck has moved already. There are things that are better than Slack now that can actually help you really bring you into conversations and engagement. And that's the problem that we'll talk about today. Now, the best platforms have always broken down silos, and we appreciate a lot of them. If anything, SaaS was about that. It shifted a lot of the complexity. They're like, hey, we can do the hardware, we can do the operations, we can do the upgrades, we can do some of the security. And all you need is APIs. We'll do the sandboxing, the test and dev, all these things that you needed so many teams to come together. We will do this for you. And the more things change, the more they remain the same. The biggest opportunity for AI is really ease of use and integration, like it was 20 years ago, like it was 30 years ago. But now we have new surfaces. We have new surfaces that are even more lightweight than what we've actually seen before. If anything, one of the things we talk about is beyond just surfaces is without the data, you cannot integrate. And we know this. It's the lifeblood of any enterprise, and it's fragmented. So the big opportunity is to really talk about a knowledge graph. You'll hear about the knowledge graph a lot today, but it needs to have some ethos, some virtues. It needs to be commodity. And what is it about commodity that's so special? For one, it's inexpensive. It's democratized. Everybody, modular security has access to this knowledge graph. And it also runs at scale. It's built for startups, it's built for the mid-market, it's built for the enterprise. And that is one of the most important things that we believe this new tech has to do, is to really commoditize this data. Of course, be fast and real time, in sync with a lot of your systems. I think that to us is a big opportunity. Now, this knowledge graph is a lot of things, but the two most important things, what you build or serve, and who do you serve, the customer and the product. We have to bring it everywhere. Everywhere, the customer has to be even in your sprint planning. Like, how do developers and tech leads think about what to prioritize? It's important to bring the customer into a lot of our discourses. It's also all your documents. Imagine all your documents in Google Docs and Notion and everything else that you've seen in SharePoint in the last 20 years. All of that needs to come together. And then we create this tapestry that we'll bring a framework for, but it's going to be your data, and it's going to be your tokens. So it's your tokens, your data, but hopefully our framework that makes this look simple. Now, what else has the market told us? The last 3.5, 4 years, we've learned that it's not just pricing and renewals that are extremely difficult conversations to be had with the old software vendors, but it's also customer service. It's lacking in a big way. I mean, many of them have been acquired by private equity firms. Some of the large corporations act like PE firms as well. And I think the implementation is predatory as well. It's pretty expensive. It's time and material. There's no real outcomes. And the partner ecosystem is messy. Of course, we'll talk about AI's power. The market says, what about AI? Where's the FOMO? There's a lot of FOMO about AI as well. But we should also not forget about the last 10 years of what cloud has achieved as well. Or at least when the large enterprise has raised its hand for the first time in the last couple of years saying, we are ready for the public cloud. And there's some great abstractions that only in the last 5 years have made it possible for us to do many more things than was possible in the past. Like data warehousing. I think it should be tucked in. We can do the job for you. Hosting all your code, arbitrary code. It can sit in these serverless lambdas, and it's all your code. But we can host it. And we can meter it 1/1000th of a dime. That was just not possible in the past. So you can pay as little as you use and as much as you really use. So There's a lot of feedback we've gotten, of course, to be fair to this software over the last 20 years. I mean, for its time, it was well designed. It was great at access with APIs. Was lightweight for its time. But most importantly, it started small. And the market says, look, let's retain all these virtues as we go and think about the next phase of this. If anything, starting small needs to get better. You have to be even more lightweight. In fact, the more lightweight you are, the more agentic your employees' experience, your customers' experience are going to be. So we're going to really take this notion of lightweight to a next level this coming decade. But these are the things it was not good at. These are deep engines, documents, and reasoning, data, structured data, and code. They were not good at hosting a lot of this stuff. They were not good at crawling and indexing and a lot of these things. They punted this problem to you, for you to be able to go and solve this, spending tens of millions of dollars more with your full-time employees and your partners to really go do these things. But they're big opportunities. Of course, it also struggles with conversational stuff. I mean, if anything, in the last 10 years, SaaS has not embraced mobile. It's still an afterthought. We feel like that surface is now moving to overlays like chatbots and what you can actually do in miniaturized forms. So conversations is not natural. And that's why most people have really gravitated to Slack and Teams, because that's where conversations happen. And all the boring stuff happens in business software. Of course, we talked about integrations. They haven't cared much about doing a lot beyond just the knowledge that they keep into knowledge that exists, that's out there, that can be joined with their data and their storage. And last but not least, there's a modern workflow ecosystem out there that can be done, and of course it has new potential to do reasoning and really do it in any programming languages. And for full code stuff, why should it be a language that a vendor actually foists in you? It should be anything your developers want to do. So I think these are the things we look at, and I think it's our opportunity. So what are the use cases that we've actually seen in the last 18 months of our selling? The first one is a modern support. And it's not just agents, it's going to be agents and apps. This is going to be not just L1 and L2, but L1, L2 support, plus root cause analysis and incident management, all of L3, L4. Really hard search problem, deduplication problem, understanding what it means to do sophisticated pattern matching, all this stuff that LLMs are good at is a great killer use case for L3 and L4 as well. So we'll make a case for that. We'll make a case for conversational AI, really proving that CX and DX, developers and customers are two sides of the same coin. We don't have to take sides. And we can actually blur the lines between the front office and back office. And finally, search. There were 9 search engines before the 10th one arrived. And that 10th one brought the power of commodity. It was great for all of us, but it was also great for the SMBs. They brought an amazingly good ad network. We know this company, it's Google. But they also brought the power of a framework, the SEO framework, where you can measure things as well. And they brought the power of transparency, of consumption, of pricing. And I feel like the enterprise has not seen the best search yet. So we hopefully can actually prove to you that search is here, and it's not just built for the large enterprise. It's the power of commodity that we bring to the mid-market, to startups. Everybody should have search, not just search of customers and product, but employees and work and users and sessions and everything else as well. So what about the rest of the day? The rest of the day, we're going to make a case that you can leave some boring stuff to machines, and it'll be complementary. You can always have the last mile, let them do the boring verbs, because there's so many of these things. There's millions of sessions, there's hundreds and thousands of tickets or conversations, there's tens of thousands of tickets, there's thousands of issues and bugs and commits. There's a lot of data, and machines can really help. So we'll make a case for that throughout the course of this day. We'll make a case for this tapestry, the fact that this is key for a lot of what AI needs to be, but it's going to be, it's a hard problem, and we have made it fairly easy. And we've made it easy in many ways on data, and hopefully in the next 3 years, you'll see us make it easy for code as well, because a lot of legacy code that can actually move to the new world through the power of LLMs in the future. We'll make a case that it's not just the knowledge graph, but the power of 3, and how this power of 3 can really make this collaboration special between you and us. We'll talk a lot about search and analytics and workflows, because these engines are up for a revival. But last but not the least, we'll talk about this tension. We'll celebrate this tension, and it's probably the most important one. We feel like it's not a zero-sum game. It is actually an infinite game of work and life, and in that, I think we have to think really, really hard. Is it all about agents, or is it all about people, and how we can actually bring both of them together? Because by the time software has caught up with our abilities, the goalpost would have moved. The problem statement would have expanded and evolved. And that is the real opportunity to really bring these two together. Because in that sense, it's not about this or that. It's really about this and that. And by the time, as I said, the software would have evolved to really do this, we would have retrained ourselves. We'd have retrained to really say, what's the next set of problems? What are the next set of things that we can all go work on? And if that retraining is something we have seen before, we've got retrained on this device in the last 10 plus years, that we know that we can keep it at the back of our pockets all the time, and yet we can deal with people, we can deal with relationships and everything else around us. So let's make it effortless. Let's make this thing not be the tension that everybody talks about, their jobs or our jobs, but make it our jobs. And thank you again for being here. I look forward to a great day ahead of us. I'm actually 3 minutes ahead of time, but hopefully that's a great thing, right? Thank you again, everyone.